possible.
Okay, got it. I've already got that pulled up. Got it.
Yep.
And good morning, everybody. Hey, it's Monday morning. I hope we're ready to get the week started. I've got Mario here with us this morning.
Hello.
And after some deliberation and conversation, we're going to try to cover a few things that happened this weekend. It was a busy weekend, believe it or not.
It was.
So
on a personal note, I'll have you guys know that I'm trying to clean up my act this week, okay, and not be not be the guy who wakes up minutes before the show or the guy who's dead tired all the time because he insists on drinking 2 liters of vodka every night and waking up a complete train wreck in the morning. So I will be much higher energy this week, all right, for your viewing and listening pleasure, all right. And about the deep dive on Saturday, just behind the scenes, I was actually high during that show. Okay, so if you noticed, I wasn't quite on point. We had a darts night here, so I was playing darts, but until about a half hour before the show, and my friend was like, "Hey man, you want to take a few hits of this shit?" I'm like, "Ooh, I don't know, man. I kind of need to be. I need to have I need to be fully mentally equipped for like a 2 to 3 hour show in a few minutes. I don't think that's a good idea, but you know." The problem with me is it's like much like Marilyn Manson said, I don't like the drugs, but the drugs like me. Okay. So of course I did take a few hits. And then about 5 minutes till we went live, I'm sitting here in this very chair realizing the terrible mistake I've made. So thank you. Thank you for bearing with me. This upcoming Saturday will be much higher energy. So anyway, that's all I got to say. That's all I got behind the scenes, Chris.
Hey, before we jump into the next one, excuse me. Do you have any thoughts for next week's deep dive? Because I haven't.
No clue.
Okay,
but
cool.
But someone in this chat this morning will win that prize.
No, I've got one I want to do. I've got a couple I want to do. So, I'm gonna go ahead and take point on the deep dive this week, and kind of break it up a little bit and get into some of our other larger topics and do one of the more philosophical ones. So anyway, let's talk.
I think Cameron's talking about Alex Soros got married this weekend, and that it was not a good weekend to do. No, it was perfect. Okay, because everything happening this weekend exemplifies the life of the Soros family. Okay, death, destruction, and chaos across a wide spectrum of fields. Okay, so
that's basically the Soros wheelhouse, right?
Soros way. Yes, it's like Tim Waltz's wife, just opening the windows and just breathe in the fumes from the burning tires. Okay, it inspires them, right?
We're not talking about mentally healthy people here. We're talking about world dominating sociopaths.
That's correct. That is correct.
So
is Trump one of them? I don't know. Anyway, so
let's dig into that question. So we got 4 things to really go over this weekend where there were big events, right? We're going to close this morning on the one that is the better feel good story, right? The Army's 250th birthday. So to those who served, we salute you. Happy birthday.
Cheers, mate.
It's funny when the 14th rolls around every year, I get blasted with text messages, and I blast out text messages from family members, from old battle buddies, etc. And we just say happy birthday to each other, right? And usually the first one of the day catches me by surprise, and I'm like, it's not I just had a birthday. Oh! And we all have good fun with it. Okay, so, but then we're going to have to talk about the No Kings riots. One of the things you're going to see from the No Kings riots is there's not a lot of KANGZ in the assembled groups, which is interesting and worth comment, and we'll get to that in a minute. We're also going to talk about the Minnesota assassination, and but we're going to start with Iran. Bomb, 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 Iran. Bomb, Iran. Trump
Burn in
heads
hell, John
possible.
McCain.
Yeah. I've told you my McCain story, right?
You have. He's just a sad. He basically is like a hollow flesh sack. Okay, with that's barely held together by a central nervous system. All right, a weak blob, a pathetic shallow man who pretty much does what he is the epitome of the deep state. Okay,
There
the
are
deep state.
many ideas, ideologies, political adherences, etc., that I feel deep-seated hatred for. But there are very few people to whom I legitimately direct deep, deep hatred. John McCain was one of those people. And it's not because he was the weakest candidate ever to be brought to oppose a real threat to the American presidency. It's not because he was a traitor to the party and a coward. No. While I was deployed, I had a secure position, and understand that not job security. I'm talking about a position in a war zone surrounded by concertina wire, on which I had posted several Kurdish mercenaries to defend the position and reject entry to all comers. In the midst of planning an important raid on a dangerous, high-value target, Taliban command unit, John McCain decided that he needed to have a visit to an outpost and see what the war really looked like. And so the Congress made me shut down my secure observation post, postponing a mission for several days. This killed 2 American soldiers on my watch, and I have never forgiven him for his cowardice. I had no choice, once it was all said and done, to burn down the city that happened in. That is John McCain to me.
Was he at least on time? Was he at least on time for his photo op, according to the original op order you were given? No, he was not.
Of course not.
God.
No, that's the flex. You're on my schedule now, bitch. That's the flex. That's why Obama was always 30 minutes late whenever he had a speech scheduled. That's the flex. So
I don't understand sociopaths. I really don't. I don't want to.
So Trump hints at possible U.S. entry into war amid stepped-up Israeli daytime attacks on Tehran. And I'm not especially happy to see this article because we had Israel's clearly trying to draw us into a war with Iran, and Trump said, nah, no, we're not going to do that. So
let me give a little backstory here.
Well,
a little backstory.
We've talked about the Jews a few times on the show, and the deep dives, they come up often. And I've been very clear that I don't want this to be the JQ question. I don't want this to be the JQ show. There are myriad dangerous powers arrayed against the liberty and prosperity of free people, and that is only one of them. When we talk about the political questions of Israel in modernity, I want this to be the clearest thing I ever say on the subject. Israel is an ally from whom we derive no benefit. They are the equivalent. They are the political, the geopolitical, and strategic equivalent of having a bum on your couch who doesn't work and pay rent. Not a dependent child. No, a shithead buddy who found himself in a hard way, and you put him on the couch because he needs somewhere to be, and he's not doing anything to better himself.
but he's always asking you to intervene in the drama within his personal life. 100. Yes,
Yeah,
I
hey man,
agree.
hey man, can I hold $1? I mean, that's Israel. Can I hold $1?
Can you shoot this guy for me?
Now, to be very right, and now to be very clear, let me really put a point on this. In the current in our current op tempo, our current geopolitical situation, these statements are true of literally every ally that the United States has. We have no legitimate allies. We have a bunch of dependapotami floating around out there. America is the private that fucked too many strippers. So now we're looking at, after Saturday reports widely said that Israel requested direct U.S. military assistance to attacking Iranian nuclear sites, President Trump, in fresh comments to ABC News, has begun to change the White House tune a little. As he now says, it's possible the U.S. could get involved in the Israel-Iran conflict. If that's the route we tend to go, I would like to remind Mr. President that JDAMs and Moabs send a very clear message. A bullet may have your name on it. A hand grenade is addressed to whom it may concern. But a Moab is a public service announcement.
Well, that's precisely what the Israelis want. Okay, they want Moabs. Now, brief roll up of where we are right now with Iran. Okay, Israel declared war on Iran. Okay, please understand that these were not just like some airstrikes. Okay, it wasn't just a little tactical operation. No, when you're
unambiguously,
unambiguously
you're engaged
declared
in conflict
war.
here.
When you knock out a sovereign state's air defense grid, okay, you have in fact declared war against them. All right.
Yeah.
So they basically took out the air defense grid. They did the same thing, similar to what Israel did, or no, what Israel? Well, maybe they were proxy. What Ukraine did in Russia, where basically they got basically pods and pods of drones, okay, inserted into the country surreptitiously, right, and then launched them from there, like from the back of trucks, etc., and basically took out a whole bunch of air defense sites. Okay, very similar to that strategic operation that Ukraine pulled off in Russia. It kind of makes me wonder if I think Palantir's already on the battlefield. If you ask me, I think what we're seeing is basically AI enhanced wargaming. All right, but
yeah,
like
I think
said,
that's fair.
Yep, secret drone strikes that took FPV drone strikes that took place within the country. All right, that got embedded there a while ago. So they had been setting this up for a long time. They took out numerous ministries.
Kind of like the pagers.
They killed yes, like the pagers. They killed a slew of senior government officials and military officials. They wiped out a generation of their top nuclear scientists. All right, they destroyed the main nuclear research facility, at least the one that's not buried in the in the halls of the Mountain King. Turning the whole site into a CBRN site. All right, where it's now it's contaminated land. They launched strikes against their economy by blowing up oil depots. Okay, so over the weekend, like tremendous fires outside of Tehran as oil fields burned, and so full scale warfare. All right, being conducted against the state. Israel now has air superiority over the skies of Iran, meaning that they can now fly around at will and take out targets of their choosing. So basically, they neutered. All right, Iran has been just my personal feelings aside. Okay, just looking at Israel and Iran, Iran has been getting the shit kicked out of it by Israel for at least for about 2 years. Okay, the systematic destruction of Hezbollah's command and control in Lebanon, the destruction of their weapon stockpiles, the psychological horror of the pager mass bombings, okay, which was a terrorist attack, combined with the fall of Assad, okay, in Syria, and of course Israel Israel's always supported that. Assad is the reason. The reason that we've been saying Assad must go, all right, for better part of a decade now, is because it is in Israel's interest. All right, Israel would rather have terrorist Sunni cavemen in charge. Okay, it sounds crazy, but they would rather have barbarians in charge of rival powers and in charge of their neighboring countries than actually coordinated, effective leadership. Okay, because they can deal with barbarians. Okay, what they can't deal with is serious statesmen who are willing to basically make deals and alliances with other regional powers. Okay, so
Yeah,
Iran
and
has
as long as
lost
you
that
keep
Sunni crescent. Yeah, that Sunni crescent that extends from
yeah,
Iran all the way to the Mediterranean, through Lebanon and Syria, that has effectively been destroyed. All right. Um, and now Iran has lost control of their skies and they're getting bombed at will. So Iran's fucked, basically.
and that let's be real. That especially since we're talking about oh god, what's it called? An OPEC member state. Um, the destruction of Iran does actually have some significant economic strategic value to America. Uh, the silver lining here is if we lose the midterms and Trump gets thrown out, and then in 2028 we end up with Joe Biden 2.0, there won't be an external energy economy for the next continuation of Obama Biden to sacrifice our energy independence on. It'll hamper their ability to sabotage American energy production and American liberty and prosperity generally. Now, I think Cameron makes a great point here. And I think this is Trump being Trump. He might already know that he isn't likely to get into it with Iran, but he isn't stupid enough to say it out loud. That right there, Trump is in a tenuous position with all this right now, because politically, if he commits one way or the other, unfortunately, we have this problem on the left and the right. The left and right side of the political aisles in America right now are both also further divided on the question of support for Israel, which is fucking obnoxious, right? So on the left and the right, there are absolute ravenous anti-Jews and absolute ravenous anti-Palestinians, which is bizarre. But Trump finds himself in a position where committing to yes I'm going to commit troops, or committing fully to there's no way we get involved, is politically dangerous for him. And even though one of the beauties of this second Trump administration is his reelection never has to be a part of his calculus on decision making, the party's ability to move forward does have some effect there. So you have that political concern, but you also have a very real military strategic problem with making overt statements about actual commitments. If you confirm publicly, then you've just done a great deal of work on behalf of the enemy's intelligence apparatus to tell them which way they need to be crafting their intelligence products to generate actionable reports and actionable analytic strategies to prosecute any upcoming war scenario. If Iran is instead forced to deal with the twin possibilities that Trump may or may not commit American forces to engagement, then that stymies their intelligence apparatus at least somewhat. And that's one of those things that, it reads on a character sheet like, oh, well, I've got +5% resistance to fire. That's not much, But that little bit, for anybody who's played that kind of a game, can understand that might not sound like much on paper, but it can absolutely be the determining difference in the clutch, right?
Well, I am a son of Japheth who cares not for the games of the Shemites. Okay, but truth is, Israel, like we're denying Israel vital intelligence. Israel spies on us more than any other country. Okay,
Yes.
Israel is basically has sensors so far up our ass. All right, they know what we had for breakfast. All right,
And
like
this one goes in your mouth, and this one
this one
goes in
goes
your
in your
ear.
head. Oh, well, oh wait, it's the
Oh,
other
wait,
way.
and this one goes up your wait, give them back. This one goes in your mouth. Ah!
Classic. But yeah, so yeah, Israel spies on us, okay, more than any other country. Any intelligence we're not giving them, they probably already have access to anyway. All right, pretty much our IC has been compromised by Israel. Now, what they really want from us is they want some, like you said, they want some Moabs. Okay, they want deep bunker busting munitions that they do not have.
Correct.
Iran has nuclear facilities, like I said, burrowed into the mountains. All right, what they're asking for is some of those Tony Stark weapons. All right, that knock out mountain ranges, and that can collapse those facilities within the mountain itself. All right, Moabs could potentially do that. That's what they're asking for, and that's what Trump has thus far not given them. Now, what makes the situation so dangerous is that we do have lots of little bases, all right, that are in bases in Iraq, bases in Syria, okay, um, that are not largely known to the public. But they basically sit there as both observation and collection points, but also as potential tripwires. Okay, that can be set off that would lead the United States into a conflict. Okay, kind of similar to what the Second Infantry Division is in up near the DMZ, right? On the Korean Peninsula, they're not meant to like hold off the entire North Korean army. No, they're meant to be a tripwire and a sacrifice. All right, to get larger involvement from the United States into a potential Korean war. All right, similar math in Syria and Iraq. So the absolute stupidest thing that Iran could do would be to target one of those bases. All right, if they do that, then unfortunately we're gonna start bombing Tehran as well. All right, which
Yeah.
is what I really don't want to see. Now Trump is making some efforts to he's trying to bring Iran back to the table. You see, Trump told Netanyahu, he's like, look, give me 60 days and I can work out a deal with the Iranian regime. Right, 60 days passed. On day 61 is when Israel declared war on Iran. Now Trump had this Sunday, there were supposed to be scheduled more diplomatic talks on basically coming to an agreement with a peaceful nuclear energy program, but that never happened because Israel pulled the trigger.
Right.
Now, I understand there was
Just
a
like with
60-day
Zelensky,
deal, but
just like with Zelensky in Ukraine, and I'm making this
yeah,
comparison for a very particular
it's a very
reason.
good comparison.
What,
Yes,
what we're looking at right here is American allies are actively sabotaging attempts to secure peace
absolutely,
with
and I'm
not
sick of it.
American enemies. Right? Iran is a problem. Russia is a problem, but Russia is Ukraine's enemy. Iran is Israel's enemy.
Yep.
Right? Our primary geopolitical enemy is China. And our being entangled in these useless foreign entanglements like Israel and Iran and Ukraine and Russia is very much to our detriment in the ongoing, very serious, let me not mix words on this, hot economic fucking war that we are engaged in with China. You may not see bullets flying back and forth between America and China, but it is not the case that America and China are at war with one another. Right now, it is the case that China is waging war, fifth or sixth generational warfare, against the United States. And it's doing it in a very, very aggressive and dangerous way. And it's also important to remember, and I'll bring this back around to Iran in just a second. It's also important to understand China is in a bind, right? China is ramping up its fifth and sixth generational warfare activities against the United States right now, fighting primarily an economic and information war, because China, like most of the world, is at below replacement birth rates in a system where you need at least 4 babies coming out per welfare collector, and they are at 0.5 babies, right? So you essentially, they are at production rates of 0.5 producers per leech.
Yeah.
And that is going to devour them, and they know it. And their solution is to try and move their parasitism to U.S. shore. We are already sending them food aid and foreign aid money. Yes,
China?
we supply food and foreign aid money to our enemies as well, to help the poor, impoverished people. Fuck you. China should be left to starve. And as we're being distracted by these entanglements in Ukraine versus Russia and Israel versus Iran, we are being distracted from the actual economic conflict that is a legitimate existential threat to the United States, with allies who are constantly and consistently and intentionally sabotaging every attempt to resolve these conflicts peacefully.
Yep.
And it is because Zelensky and Netanyahu are very wealthy men. They have become wealthy men on the backs of American charity.
Yep. Patronage.
And they do not want the gravy train to end. 6 years ago, Zelensky was playing the piano with his pecker on television. Now he's a billionaire. Those are our fucking dollars.
Yep.
He sabotaged peace talks with Putin on more than one occasion. There was the visit to the White House where he thought he was going to strong arm Trump and Vance on television, and and that was so great because Trump just sits there. He's like, "Yeah, handle my light work, JD," and Vance just, "Okay, let me shut this shit right down." Zelensky is sabotaging peace talks because he wants the money to keep flowing. Bibi's doing the same thing. He wants that sweet shekels to keep rolling over the border.
Yep.
And they get that by artificially extending unnecessary conflict.
And both of them know, first of all, Zelensky and Netanyahu, what they also both know, and Bill, I even have to say it? Everyone knows, right? So anyway, Zelensky and Netanyahu, what they both know is that the moment the war ends, the moment their current conflict ends, they're going to jail.
Yep.
Like
Yep.
they're gonna have to flee the country. Okay, the only place Zelensky could potentially run to either South Florida, okay, or Israel. Those are his only options. Okay, Benjamin Netanyahu, I honestly, I think if he came to America, I think he would get. I think something would happen to him. Okay, at least I'd hope so. Now Netanyahu has nowhere to go. Okay, Netanyahu is already in the homeland, and he's been indicted multiple times, and the investigations and the scheduled trials, all right, that he has to attend are all suspended because Israel is in a state of war. Netanyahu, you have to understand, like, Netanyahu's been in power for a long time. All right, he first became prime minister when we were in high school.
Almost 20 years.
When we were in high school, Netanyahu's been in and out of power longer than Putin has. Okay, think about that. People talk about these sclerotic, septuagenarian, octogenarian leaders, all right, around the world who just will not give up power, not Ataturk, Erdogan in Turkey, right? Putin in Russia, Xi Jinping, who's now emperor for life, okay, in China. Well, Netanyahu is essentially been the nexus of political power in Israel since like 1997. All right, so
96. Netanyahu was
96.
first elected in
Yep.
96. Putin was
Yeah.
elected in 99. So
Mhm.
Netanyahu has been a
Been in
problem
power.
longer,
Yeah.
has been there for 3 years longer than Putin.
Now he's been deposed a couple times for the opposition party to
Yeah.
basically to sit
And
sit in the
Putin
big
has
boy chair
remained,
for a minute, but
Putin has
Netanyahu
been the
always comes
man.
back.
Yeah.
Well, no, if you remember, Putin actually stepped down for a 4-year term and then let Medvedev, all right, the vice president, take
but
over
that
for.
wasn't, he didn't get voted out there.
No,
He
no, it
he
was
didn't lose to an opposition party. He
no.
made a deal with a
He
buddy.
followed the law.
Yeah. Yeah, he made a deal with a buddy.
Right. Okay. So, what I was going to say, you're talking about China being our main geopolitical, adversary. Geopolitics, sure, but I mean, let's be honest. The United States' number one adversary is the human excrement residing within its borders, attempting to tear it down. All right, this human excrement coming from both domestic and foreign sources. That is our
Right,
primary
domestic and
concern.
foreign. You're not just talking about the hostile
Yeah.
foreign invaders, but also the spiteful mutants.
I'm talking about, yes, the spiteful mutants, precisely. Okay, that is America's number one security concern. All right, America, after like after 100 years, after 100 years of foreign war, America is desperately in need of some internal healing, internal house cleaning. Okay, some sort of national revival. We do not need to be expending our blood and treasure on the wars of uncooperative and double dealing nations. All right.
Yeah, the spiteful mutants are a problem.
They are. Aaron Olson wants us to move on to the no kings, and you know what? You're right. Maybe we should. But bottom line, as of right now, we're not involved, but we very well could be. And you know what? Trump's little, oh, I could do this, I could do that, his Trump's caginess, if you will. I'm getting tired of it. Okay, just do or do not. Shut the fuck up. All right. KANGZ.
All right, so we're moving on to.
You still got all those
the
pictures?
Minnesota assassin is the next thing on the list. You want to go to no KANGZ first?
Yeah, we can do some KANGZ first. Well, actually, no, we'll do it now. What's Minnesota assassin? Do you know anything I don't? I'm getting conflicting. Okay, I don't know what this guy's motivations are. All right, I don't know if he's a MAGA supporter. I don't know if he's a deranged Democrat. Okay, I feel like I'm getting gaslit by both sides right now. Okay, one thing I do know for certain is there was a manifesto, and the Minnesota police said that they will not be releasing his manifesto. So okay, so they could answer that question.
Correct.
I simply released the manifesto, but they won't.
So let's clear something up real quick. We're hearing it from both sides. He's a radical MAGA nut job, and we're hearing it from the other side. From our side, he's a radical leftist, and I'll put that to bed right now. Here's what we know for sure: he is a Tim Walz appointee, which by itself discounts the probability that he's a staunch conservative. He's a registered Republican. I'll remind you that the governor, Arnold Schwarzenegger, was a registered Republican who ran as a Republican and was elected as a Republican to the governorship of California, who as recently as 2021 said, and I quote, "Fuck your freedom. You wear the mask and get the shot." So, registered Republican. I would say that his appointment by a sociopath Democrat like Tim Walz, a stolen valor coward, sociopath and liar, speaks far more to the character of the assassin than if he is a registered Republican, which, by the way, is a statement that I doubt, because I have only seen the statement made. I have not seen the statement made in conjunction with any offer of evidence to the effect. That said, what evidence we do have in a world where the absence of evidence is evidence itself on occasion, if the Minnesota police have the manifesto, if the Tim Walz's state police have the manifesto from the Tim Walz appointee who murdered 2 people, and they're choosing not to release it, we know what's in the manifesto. Let me take you back.
But I don't
remember
know.
January 6th? How long did it take us to get the manifesto? When the tranny murdered all the little Christian kids.
Right.
This is what you can be certain of. Okay. If the headline says the shooter was white, then he was. If the headline doesn't say what color the shooter was, he wasn't white.
Well,
it's that simple. The headline will never say the shooter was white. The same thing flies on the political spectrum. If the shooter was absolutely a Trump supporter, that will be in the headline. If the shooter was a diehard, if the headline doesn't say that the shooter was wearing a MAGA hat and screaming, "Trump is my God Emperor Daddy," then you can basically be sure that the shooter was in fact one of these spiteful mutants.
Well, he kind of looks like them, but maybe with a little more professional certification. But yeah, what we know about him, this guy, what's his name, Bottler or whatever.
Something like that. No, I switched over to a different spot. So keep talking while I find the article again. I've got it pulled up somewhere.
So anyway, what we know about him is that he's involved in security services. Okay, he's run like 2 security companies, and both of them are the type that rely heavily on government gravy to keep running. Okay, I guarantee this guy lost a lot. I guarantee he lost a lot of funding with the basically sidelining and cancellation of U.S. aid contracts. We know that he was hired for said security services by the Walz campaign when he was governor, and by Governor Walz's predecessor as well. All right, so this guy's kind of a known entity within the Minnesota government, and he apparently he killed 2 Democrats. All right, or I think he killed 4 people, killed 2, injured 2, something like that. But he targeted the 2 Democrats he targeted were Democrats who had recently crossed the aisle and voted with the Republicans in the Minnesota House to deny welfare benefits for illegal immigrants. Okay, basically cutting off the free welfare money for the illegal immigrants. Right. So the fact that now apparently he had a whole list of Democrats that he was going to target, but the fact that he targeted those 2 first, kind of, it doesn't really make sense that he would be a MAGAT. Okay, right? So
right.
I don't. It's very sus. You have the Minnesota police saying that they're not going to release the manifesto. Plus, anyway, he's been captured as of this morning. I saw they captured the guy. He got into a shootout and actually escaped from the police, which is pretty ballsy. And then you saw like the "No Kings" flyers in the back of his vehicle. The police provided that photo real quick, but that looked a little suspect to me. Okay, like really like low effort shit type of "No Kings" on napkins. So I don't know about
I'd give you that. I'd say that may be fair. But then you go back and you look at the situation with the Trump documents, and we found out that the FBI that broke into that smashed in the door at Mar-a-Lago and raided it. They physically brought the manila folders with the classification markings in with them and laid them out to stage the photo op. It wouldn't surprise. So that wouldn't surprise me at all. And Cameron mentions this. He says, if we play the odds, we can make some assumptions about this guy. Nut jobs that do this sort of thing tend to have certain ideologies in common. Not only do they tend to have certain ideologies in common, we have studies from as recently as the beginning of this year that show an incredible correlation of mental illness to leftism. People who identify, especially women who identify as Democrat, show a more than 50%. It was like 70% self-reported, diagnosed, chemically treated, pharmaceutically treated mental illness.
Like 50% higher than the next cohort. Okay,
right.
basically a beacon of mental illness, right? Would be the leftist woman. Yeah. And so what speaking of the leftists, what they're saying about the guy, all right, is that he did vote Republican. They're saying he was a MAGA. They're calling him MAGA maniac. Okay. Apparently, his neighbor said that he is a Trump supporter, and like an extreme America First type. I don't know. You look at the neighbor in the media that I saw. He's basically some just disgusting fat slob. Okay, so
Yeah.
and I don't trust anyone who's a disgusting fat slob. All right, so but yeah, I don't know. I think well, I don't know. You know what? It's one of those things where it's going to get memory hold soon anyway, and then no one's going to talk about it. So fuck it.
No, unless there comes to be some, unless it turns out that the FBI was running some kind of an op, and everybody involved was actually an agent. Then what's going to happen is there will be some definitive proof that this guy was left-wing motivated, and at that exact moment, everything gets memory hold with the manifesto and goes away. So basically, if you don't hear anything else about this story over the next 2 to 3 days, then you can essentially operate under the assumption that Tim Walz personally ordered the hit.
Right,
and you won't be far off from reality.
Yes, and 1 month from now, MSNBC will issue a retraction. Okay, on the guy's motivation.
And now, to be clear, to be clear and to be fair to Tim Walz, I do not believe that Tim Walz is intelligent enough to be that kind of evil. If he personally ordered the assassinations, then he did it on orders from the party. Because he's not intelligent and productive enough to have created that kind of evil on his own. He's just the sort of stooge that would be used to cut out the chain of custody on the orders themselves.
Yeah. Playing Madden with AOC, for a fake ass live stream. That's about the max. That's the most of his abilities.
Oh, they put me on the ticket because I can code talk to white guys. No, Tim. No, you can't.
Also, Tim Walz doesn't know how to make a white guy taco. Okay, I make white guy tacos, and they're fucking banging. All right, Aaron Olson asks, "Did you see the Ring
habanero bourbon sauce, baby?"
There you go. Right, barbecue sauce in my taco, boy. All right, Aaron Olson, did you see the Ring camera footage of the guy prior to one of the shootings? I did not. If you got a link, post it in the chat.
Yeah, throw the link up, buddy.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's about all we got on that guy. You want to kang it up?
Aaron, real quick. If the link won't, if you can't post the link, sometimes the chat won't let you post the link from Rumble. If you can't post it there, DM me on X. I'll go ahead and pull that up separately, and I'll watch for your DM. And if you don't have the link, that no big deal. We'll move on to the next story, which is no KANGZ. Okay.
Right. I sent a bunch of photos. If you want to pull those up, just to give the audience a general idea.
The photos from the tower thread.
Well, from the end tower. Yeah.
Oh, God, Mario, we got to get you on X or something. I don't have a good way to, because of the way Signal works, I don't have a good way to share those right now.
Oh, that's unfortunate. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, it's basically geriatric MSNBC boomers by day. Okay. And then it would be Antifa and the forces of color by night. Okay. So if the kicked off on Saturday,
I'm working on them. I'm going to try to get them all.
Gotcha. They're really good. It's really indicative of what I'm trying to say. So basically, it's a lot of like old, washed out, like burned out, freaking leftist boomers. Okay, who are out in the street wearing their pedant, stupid outfits and carrying their pedantic signs. A lot of them in like mobility assisted carts. Okay, screaming paeans of the lowest order about Trump, about the Republican Party, what have you. Okay, and most of them are just they're people who are so out of touch that they just want people to be nice. Okay, like they're only the height of their political I guess their platform is just people should be nice, okay? But they're not taking into account, like they're people who came from a high trust society, okay, and don't understand that thanks to immigration, the United States is no longer a high trust society, okay? But where they live, they have money and they still live in areas where they can look around and see that everything is predominantly white and it's predominantly their economic class and their cohort, right? They do not understand what people of younger generations than them actually see in their day-to-day life, okay? They do not understand that it is not the country that they grew up in, all right, in the 1960s and 70s. They're completely fucking out of touch. And they're never going to get it at this point. They have to be ignored. Hippie wannabes, yes, Sergeant Major, they are. Yes, they're the like retrograde leftovers, all right, from previous social pathologies in this country, if you will. All right.
Okay.
Now,
there you go.
Here's take a gander.
Yeah. I still believe in my oath. Do you? Yes, I do.
That's a spiteful mutant.
Look at that. Yeah.
That's a spiteful mutant.
And they keep saying none of this is lawful. Oh, Donald Trump's breaking the law. Articulate it. Right. You guys have seen me talk about this, right? Steven Crowder, hey, all references available at crowder.com. I show the references when we talk about specific laws. We cover the law. Whenever you hear one of these cowards talk about, oh, Donald Trump's breaking the law. Okay, what law? Show me where he's breaking the law. Right. And there you go. More boomers, right? These are, they're not protesting kings or they're not protesting fascism, et cetera, et cetera. These guys are protesting. They're afraid that they're going to lose their Social Security and they're going to have to stop taking my money. Right. ICE is only good in tea. Oh, look at you. Aren't you adorable, sweetheart? With your belly button out. That's just classy. ICE out. What? Okay, I'll give him to it. I'll give it to him. That's cute. The middle finger is made out of bricks, so it's like the wall. Okay, that may be the cleverest thing that came out of the whole protest set. Resist like it's 1938. All that Nazis. Trump is Hitler. Oh, this is just like the Nazis. Jesus Christ, you people. Go ahead and bring your camera back, Mario.
I was getting a strategic cup of coffee while I was. You just blew up my scene, man. You just exposed me.
Well, at least it wasn't a Soviet Pogo incident.
That's true.
But these, anytime somebody talks about the flipping, oh, Trump is Hitler. Oh, it's just like when the Nazis were over. Like, Jesus Christ, did you not learn anything in history? Have you studied no other? Okay. I'm never going to be one of these guys that says that Hitler was right, that Hitler did no wrong, because Hitler was a socialist, right? But the idea that Hitler was the most evil person that ever lived, Hitler was not even the most evil entity at the time.
Yeah.
And like I mentioned earlier, we're still, we're engaged right now. China is waging war against us. Let's be clear. The current party in power in China is the same Chinese Communist Party that was headed by Mao Zedong. The party has not changed. The equivalent would be if the USSR were still in existence, or if the Nazis were still the total controlling party in Germany. The CCP has remained since its inception. Right? Go back and watch our deep dive on China to better understand what that really means. That is a big fucking deal.
Yeah.
Right? So all this, Hitler, not Trump's Hitler, Trump's a Nazi, Trump's everybody. Go read a book.
Aaron Olson says 70-plus-year-old woman was interviewed at a No Kings rally in San Diego and said, "I'm afraid. I've always been afraid of everything." Yeah, I saw that. I saw that same video you're talking about. Yeah, and it's um, emotional, soft, emotional thinkers um, have no business making decisions for 350 million people. Okay, none. You got a bird? Is that a birdie?
Yes,
You have happy birds?
I have
Wow.
happy birds, and
Oh.
the chickens are pecking around right outside the studio.
Can you go outside and like hold your arms out like Saint Francis and they descend upon you?
No,
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 not working on it. Okay, working on it.
working on it. We're getting
Okay,
there.
gotcha, gotcha. You gotta.
So far, I can only do that with the possums.
Yeah, and they got
Oh,
rabies.
okay. Let's go ahead and. Did you want to say anything else about the riots this weekend?
Well, yeah, we got one guy. There was a murder that
Oh
took
yeah, yeah,
place
yeah,
in
yeah.
Salt Lake City. Look up the one Taylor Hansen on X, if you want to pull that one up.
There he is. Okay.
Yeah, this
So
freak,
yeah, tell us what happened, Marlon.
spiteful mutant. All right, Salt Lake City No Kings protest. All right, this guy, or his name is Arturo Gamboa. All right, he's basically he's a spiteful mutant that was actually imported by the Mormons. Okay, thanks Latter Day Saint Church. All right, and that's the thing with the Latter Day Saints. They'll send their missionaries around the world. Okay, and they oftentimes end up bringing back people from foreign shores that you've never even heard of, like bringing them to Salt Lake City in Utah. Okay, like levels of diversity previously not thought possible. Okay, um, so this guy, he grew up in the United States, raised by Mormons. All right, and he became basically a psychotic Antifa member. Right. Um, Justice must be taken into the hands of the people by any means necessary. So, classic leftist indoctrination, classic leftist language. Okay, and I think he shot three people, killing at least one in broad daylight in Salt Lake City this Saturday. Okay, he was arrested, obviously, and I guess that's the end of his story. So that was the only act of murder that I saw over the weekend. But it looks like the No Kings protests, it didn't carry the full weight that we thought it would. Okay, it was definitely not. It was not a repeat of the opening days of the Black Lives Matter riots in 2020. Okay, I refuse to call it the Summer of Love because it's too stupid. Okay, um,
We
it's not
did
even.
see a lot of video of huge crowds swarming in large cities. And I've made comments on several of those videos. You know, things like, wow, McCarthy was right. There are communists everywhere.
Yeah, it's not. I guarantee it doesn't have the staying power that
I
Black Lives
agree.
Matter had. Okay, and it's because now they did turn on all that sweet NGO funding. Okay, much of it coming from the Arabella Group. All right, which is like a consortium that disperses money to hundreds of different NGOs. Okay, around the planet, and within Western civilization, basically to tear apart and destroy from within.
Yeah, but they didn't have an animating martyr this time around.
Yeah, that's right. Plus, you have to understand a lot of the people who are providing the money, all right, for these operations are the same people who would be very distracted by what's going on between Israel and Iran right now. All right, and as I said on the deep dive, you can't be financing. Okay, if Israel is your primary concern, you cannot be financing color revolutions within the same country that you require as, like, your fail-safe option in the event your war goes poorly. All right, with your adversary. All right, you can't do that at the same time.
Right.
So, and that's why it's not going to have the staying power. There's a lot of huss and fuss out in the streets, but not the whole blocks of Minneapolis burning like we saw in 2020. So yeah, I could
So
be
yeah,
wrong.
I think
I could be wrong. I hope
um
I'm not, but I could be wrong. But I
I
doubt it.
I think you will be proved correct, assuming there is not an additional inciting incident added to it. There's what we have right now. What we have right now is the bonfire from last night is kind of smoldering in the yard. So if you go throw some logs on it, it'll flame right back up.
Yeah.
But if you just leave it alone, it will burn out eventually.
Yep.
And that's where we're at right now. So as long as nobody throws extra tinder on that fire, it's done.
Yep. But I mean, I don't know. I mean, but you would think that, okay, racial communism at home, and then Israel did Labad, okay, abroad, right? So those are like the anti-Zionist, right, protests that we saw. Those actually were kind of organic, right, on the college campuses when Israel kicked off its war in Gaza. So, and then you got, racial grievances and claims of Nazis by the government going out and just willy-nilly targeting brown people. So you would think that the fusion of those two things would be like the ultimate left-wing riot, right? But so far it's not, because they depend on money from the same people that they're rioting, the same people that they're protesting against. So that's why it's not happening. It's not happening. All right. Let's see here. Got one more.
Yeah, I'm looking for a better article that's kind of positive. To start with for the image.
Do you want to do the Army parade?
Yeah, we've already covered the other three.
Yeah.
So that's where we're at. You know what? Credit where it's due. There's not quite the information I wanted to see here, but credit where it's due. The Army's Army.mil 1775, the 250 U.S. Army's birthday festival. The website is beautifully well put together. Now that's a little disappointing. The this image should be, meet the greatest heroes of the Army over the last 250 years. Why didn't you use one of them as the image?
Yeah, it should be Audie Murphy.
Obviously. Either Audie Murphy or maybe Patton.
Yeah.
Well,
as far as the military parade, I like the idea. All right. When Trump proposed that there's going to be a grand military Army parade on the Army's birthday, June 14th, I liked it. I thought it was like, 'cause propaganda doesn't have to be bad, right? Propaganda can be
correct.
A good thing. It's conveying a message that you want the public not only to see but to feel. Okay, that's the point of propaganda, right? And something that's good and patriotic. Okay, and harkens to our history. Okay, that's a good thing, right? So I wasn't like the shitbirds on the left who are like, it's like Hitler, it's fascism again because there's boots marching in the streets. No, of course not. All right. Now, what I'm not going to lie though. I mean, I was a little underwhelmed by what I saw, and a lot of it was from the drill and ceremony that I saw. From these troops and kind of the lack of motivation that I saw. I would love to have been a fly on the wall in the S3 meetings, okay, between the command and staff about who they were going to be sending to these, about who they were sending to this celebration. And based on what I saw of the troops there, it looked to me like one of those voluntold. Okay, or it was like looking for volunteers, and when they didn't get the right number, then people got voluntold, and most of them were probably junior enlisted, right? So I don't think there was a lot of NCO support before those formations marched in front of the president. They were not marching in unison. The arms sway was not on point. They were supposed to be turn, look, and salute. Okay. when they get within a certain distance of the president, they were not, that shit was not on point. You could tell that they didn't do the, if you are taller than the person in front of you, then step forward. They didn't do that. There was no, so it was just,
They ordered ranks.
that's a good example. They're better than most of what I saw. Okay.
Right.
But they're just walking.
These guys are all right, but they're out of step. They're not marching.
It's not, they didn't drill. They didn't practice.
No,
and I know it's a hot day, but suck it up. I did it too. I did it. Okay. You can do it too. But
they always look like some lady that would have been your tour guide on an elementary school trip. And, I didn't hear a lot of cadence call going on there. You got the band, and that's all well and good, but we train marching with calling cadence, right? And not every cadence is for everyone's ears. That's fair, but there are plenty that are perfectly acceptable, right? I mean, Mario, remember Sunnydale Hyde calling cadence, calling war pigs, right? Using war pigs as the Black Sabbath song, War Pigs. No more war pigs have the power. No more war pigs have the power. Hand of God has struck the hour. But he called it as cadence, and we did the call and repeat and march on beat, and it was awesome. Yeah. Right? Or Pebbles and Bam Bam on a Friday night. Trying to get to heaven on a paper kite.
Yep.
Love it, right? I would have liked to have seen more of that.
I would like to have heard your father's take on it. Okay. I want to hear it from the sergeant major himself. Give me your verdict. He says, how long do you think the troops had been there online before the parade? They were probably hot and tired. Oh, I'm certain of it. I'm sure they started assembling out there probably at break of day today. Okay. And I'm sure it was a whole lot. It would have been the ultimate hurry up and wait. Okay.
Yeah. But overall, I liked the parade. I liked what I saw. I love the idea of it. The Army through the ages, and the criticism that we've been hearing for the last several weeks. Donald Trump spending millions and millions of dollars to throw himself a birthday party. Shut the fuck up.
We waste that much every day on even stupider shit, on unfathomably stupider shit. We probably
not even that. You know what most of that cost is the salary that's being paid to these soldiers, whether or not they're marching in this parade. And for those of you who haven't served, the likelihood that these guys had something more important to do is slim.
Yeah.
On a Saturday, slim. Right?
Well, yeah.
So, all that criticism, he's spending all this money. Shut the fuck up.
Yeah, like I said, drop in the bucket.
Yeah.
Yeah, we had soldiers had to get, yes. You know what, you're right. DC per diems, okay, must be terrible. DC.
Oh, Jesus. Oh. God, I could probably find that real quick.
That was my last job in the Army, was maintaining the government travel cards and orders, government travel card, and DHS doing the flights, okay, for stuff like this in the S3. So, yeah, DC is. I mean, I don't know. Maybe they probably pulled, most of those troops were probably pulled from local garrisons there in the MDC command, right, Military District of Columbia. Probably a lot of troops from Fort Belvoir, from Fort Meade. Guarantee there were plenty, probably filler from Fort Meade. But some of those guys did travel. Like I saw 4th ID there. I saw 1st Cavalry there. All right, so units were sent from across the country there. But probably the majority of it was from MDC, I suspect.
Okay.
Yep.
I'll
give you that, Sergeant Major. The training value, he says, training value of coordinating and transporting the equipment and personnel was money well spent. Yeah. Getting moving men and material from one place to another place on time, have them information, to achieve the objective. Like I said, I wasn't super impressed by it, but yeah, there is value in that. It was a mission, and most of these guys are in garrison. Not a whole lot to do when you're not on the patch chart, and there's no R for Gen cycle where we're getting ready for the next deployment, what have you. So,
okay, yep. So yeah, per diem there is around 350.
350.
350.
Good load. That's a lot of money. How about I give you $25 and you pitch a tent on the Capitol Mall?
You know what my per diem was for Afghanistan?
$1.
$7.
They let a nigga hold $1. They let a nigga hold $7.
$7.16. All right.
It's a pack of smokes and a rippet. That's all you need.
Yeah, and that's No, Afghanistan price is 2010, 17 cents, $17.16. That was 2 packs of smokes and a rippet.
Oof, man. living fat.
Living high on the hog. All right, guys, we need to wrap it up right there because we are over. Oh, thanks for watching this morning, guys. I hope you enjoyed the show. I hope you had a great weekend. I hope you gentlemen had a great Father's Day. We love you. Y'all be safe out there, and we will see you tomorrow.
Ciao.
Uh-oh. Why didn't you do it? And the button didn't get hit. Didn't stay hit.
Brakes on this train.
Yeah, but when I hit you, you stay hit.